You want to hear a really scary story? 15 years ago, Hollywood decided to reboot a classic horror franchise and completely reimagine the iconic killer in that franchise. The despair and horrors that we saw on screen 15 years ago have haunted fans ever since. That film was A Nightmare on Elm Street. What is up? First of all, I hope you're having a fantastic October. It is almost Halloween, and I am curious what you have been doing to fill your October. Let me know down in the comments. Have you been going to haunts? Have you been going to mazes, cornfields, or doing like a 31 on 31? Let me know down in the comments what you've been doing. My October has been pretty good, pretty busy. I haven't been able to go to any mazes or haunts, unfortunately. It's just one of those things you kind of have to just pick and choose and sacrifice some stuff. We were able to have a really nice Halloween party, and that was super fun. And I'm excited for Halloween. I'm really excited to take my daughter trick-or-treating now that she's old enough to somewhat do it. She's 2, and so she'll be able to actually, she's been practicing, and she's been doing really well. She's got a really cute costume, so I'm very excited to do that. But let me know in the comments what your October has been and what your Halloween plans are. Now, as you can tell, I'm sitting by the fire, got a hot cup of tea. I wish it was coffee, but for right now it's tea. And I'm just chilling, relaxing, and thinking about a movie I saw the other night that, if you were to judge by the intro, you'd probably think I did not like. But it's quite the opposite. I actually really like the Nightmare on Elm Street remake, and I think it gets a lot of hate that it doesn't deserve. Now, I'm just going to talk a little bit about that, keep it pretty low-key and relaxed, and if that sounds interesting to you, stay tuned. And if it doesn't, hey, it's been nice knowing you. But if you're a fan of the channel and all of you've watched my videos, you know I'm a sucker for a well-shot and well-lit film. And man, my leg is getting hot already. Whew. And that's one of the big reasons I'm a pretty big fan of the more recent Halloween trilogy, the David Gordon Green trilogy. Now, again, I that's another hot take, and I accept that there's flaws with those films, but the atmosphere that's created in those films, whether it's because of lighting, set design, or the fantastic John Carpenter score of those films, it's hard to beat the atmosphere that's created in those movies. And if you look at the opening shot of the Nightmare on Elm Street remake from 2010, and you've got those neon lights in that diner, and that just like Platinum Dunes logo that comes up with that creeping score that starts up, it's like so reminiscent of that time, you know, the Texas Chainsaw, Friday the 13th, Platinum Dunes remakes that were coming on. And at the time, I remember people complaining a lot, and I complained a little bit too. Not everything has to be dark, serious when you remake all these movies, but and you fast forward 15 years, and I would kill for a Platinum Dunes remake. I miss the days when we'd get a movie that actually had like a solid budget and a cast of people I knew who they were, directors who had actually maybe made movies before. I miss the dark, atmospheric tones of those films. I miss the scores for those films. They had a very specific style, a very specific tone, a very specific look, and I really enjoyed them. And at the time, I thought we could do better with some of the movies that were coming out. But again, it's like you fast forward, here we are now, and holy cow, have we got some bad movies that have come out. And I would kill for some dark, atmospheric, well-budgeted film with some people I actually might know and some good practical effects work. I'll take that over like any of the movies that have come out these days. But going back to what I was saying, the opening scene, that diner shot, I love the way that film, I love the way it looks. I love just the way it brings you into the world. The rain that's coming down outside is so cool on this diner late at night with this neon lights, and like you enter this dream world right away, and it's like you're introduced to this sort of hyper realistic dream world of Freddy's, but in a diner with this guy who's clearly like super tired and falling asleep, and it's just like you're brought into this world so quick, and it's such a cool vibe. I personally just love it. I like the music a lot. I love the way the film looks. And then, of course, we're introduced pretty quickly to Rooney Mara, who is one of the best characters in the film. Nancy Rooney Mara is one of the best actors and characters in the film. And that kill. Let's talk about the opening kill real quick, too. It is gnarly. Slitting of the throat, the sound effects, the practical effects work. This film is just shot
way better than the original film. And I don't necessarily mean, I'm not saying like film versus digital. I'm making that argument. I'm not saying like just composition. I'm not saying really anything except for the fact that it looks more vibrant, cleaner, modern. Like it's just a more modern look. Now, again, there's an argument to be made for film looks better than digital, and I'm wholly on board with that argument, but I just love the like way that this film is lit, some of the set designs, some of the worlds that are built in here, and this, it's just got a really, really cool atmosphere with the way that it looks. I love the dark, moody tones. I love the clothing choices here, the color palette. Big fan of this like sort of dark brown with like sort of reds and like these, just this vibe of this color palette that's going on here. And I really enjoy the score also. I think it's a really good score. It's very reminiscent of the Platinum Dune scores that were going on this time. It feels like what A Nightmare on Elm Street should feel like if they were Platinum Dunesing it and making it modern and like dark and intense. And there's just like the kills, I personally think now, while the original is much more creative, I'm not trying to take away anything. I love Wes Craven. I think it's more creative for sure in what some of the stuff it does, but I think they pull off the kills, some of the kills better in the remake. Now, I don't know why people hate on the practical effects work that's in here so much. There's CGI, yes, but like when the blonde girl, I can't remember her name, gets killed and gets like cut across the chest and like flung across the ceiling, that actually looks way more intense to me than in the original. Now, I'm not necessarily saying, again, that the scene is more intense. I'm just saying actual kill, when she gets like slashed across her chest and there's like the thick gobs of like the dark blood and it's like, and then she like lands on the bed like a gutted fish. It's just way more intense and looks so cool. I really think it looks dope. And the opening scene, like I said, with the throat cut, it's gnarly. Like, you think at the time, again, I'm like, oh, that's so sick. But like, you just think, oh, we'll just get a million movies with really cool effects like that and really cool kills. But we don't. Like, there's not a ton of movies that do kills like that work as effectively. I mean, now we have some, sure, but it's actually fewer and far between than I think that we thought at the time, maybe. So, I don't know, it's like go back and you revisit that movie and you realize we were kind of spoiled with all these like practical effects that were coming on screen. And let's talk about the CGI use here real quick. And again, like I said, this is just me chatting about the movie. It's kind of all over the place. But yeah, there's CGI in A Nightmare on Elm Street for sure. And some of it's not great, but some of it is really good. If you think about some of the scene transitions, like when Nancy gets out of the bathtub and she's walking to her room, there's like ash all over, and the scene in the classroom where it like shifts between worlds, some of that stuff looks sick. And when Nancy's like walking through the blood, it looks cool. And now, while I think at the time people complained about some of it, go back and watch that movie right now. Watch it. Is there 4K? Oh shoot, I don't even know. Is there a 4K of that? No, I don't think so. Just Blu-ray. I watched it on Blu-ray the night. Anyway, point being, go back and watch it. Pay attention to the effects and the CGI that we complained so much about. A lot of people complain about in 2010. You know, pick a movie out of a hat that has some CGI in it that came out this year, and the CGI is actually done way more lovingly, and it looks way better for the most part in the Nightmare on Elm Street remake than most of the modern films that have come out this year, last year, the year before, especially when we're talking like lower budget horror films. Oh man, some of it's bad. And I mean, let's talk about it real quick. Now, I like it, and I like it chapter 2, but you look at chapter 2 specifically, and Welcome to Derry, the trailer, and there's some bad CGI in there. And I watched the trailer very briefly, like I just kind of watched it on Instagram or something, and Pennywise at the end just looks like a CGI blobby mess to me. Now, that could be the Instagram's like processing it or whatever. I can't remember the name that I'm thinking of right now, compression or whatever, but I think it's the way the movie looks now, or the show looks now. I haven't seen the show yet, but point being, no one seemed to be complaining about that. No one complained about it. And there's lots of movies that have come out that recently that people haven't complained about. But yet, at the time, 2010, people were complaining so much about that CGI. And most of it looks pretty solid, like pretty good. And I feel like it was done pretty lovingly. And these days we pass off way worse quality effects. And again, it was mixed with really good practical effects work in there. I feel like we were spoiled at the time, not realizing what we had. Now let's get into some of the other really big complaints if we're talking about, well, first let's talk about the acting real quick. Kyle Gallner is not great in the movie. I've criticized his acting before. He's gotten much better. Strange Darling, he's great. This, he's not so good. This was earlier days Kyle Gallner, and he wasn't fantastic. He's not bad. Again, it's one of those things where I'm like, go back and watch this movie. Pick most horror movies that have come out this year, and I bet you Kyle Gallner is better than a good handful of the films that have come out, the acting that's in these films. And so it's like, you look at Hard Eyes, and while I enjoyed that, it was an okay movie, but some of the acting in that is not great. And Kyle Gallner is better than most of that. And that was one of the better films that have come out this year. Now, I'm not talking about films like Weapons or Sinners, like the highbrow ones. The acting in Weapons is fantastic for the most part, and on another level. I'm really talking about more along the lines of like your mass produced, like lower budget, or like seem like they came straight off the, like, you know, really, really quickly made horror films that feel like they're done quickly with, you know, slapped together actors and effects, and like basically most releases not done with such care and loving attention and shot beautifully like films like Sinners or Weapons or things like that, where clearly there's a lot of effort put into a writer-director like Zach Cregger. Is a very different world than these like films that seem like they're just slapped together with directors that don't know what they're doing, actors you've never heard of before, CGI it, send it straight to, you know, streaming or whatever. I'm not even talking like low budget, but like just for the most part, most of the releases. But I've gotten off track a little bit. Point being, Kyle Gallner is not great in it, but he's also not bad. And I knew who he was, at least. Rooney Mara is in this film. I mean, come on, we got Rooney Mara. She's always great, and she's really good in this. Now, I see the argument being made that maybe she's not the Nancy that you want, but she's pretty dang good in this film, and she's a great actor. And a lot of the other actors are also pretty good. Parents are not the best, but again, it's like the acting is really not bad, especially compared to a lot of the movies we've got these days. And there's something about this Nightmare on Elm Street remake, which could be a con, and I think maybe people complain about, but man, did they nail the falling asleep vibe. Every time I watch this movie, I'm like enjoying the tone and the atmosphere so much, but I want to fall asleep. Now, the movie is a little bit slower paced, and so that's a negative against it. And that also, when Kyle Gallner's like falling asleep, he looks like he can barely stay awake, and Rooney Mara looks like she looks like she can barely stay awake, and it makes me want to go to sleep. But I feel like that's just props to their acting, because honestly they do a great job making it feel like they're in this weird, like, stuck between awake and sleep dream world, and they don't know what they're doing or what's going on. And I think they do a really good job capturing that, actually better than the original. Again, like, I like the original, but I didn't get the sense that Nancy or a lot of the other characters were really that tired. You know, they've got like pots of coffee, but I feel like they didn't nail that, like, I can't stay awake, but I can't go to sleep vibe, as well as the remake. I actually think it did a really good job. Just simply like with the acting, it felt more like, wow, this person wants to go to sleep, but they are scared for their lives. I don't know. Maybe that's my hot take. But yeah, let's talk about the villain, Freddy Krueger. Let's talk about Jackie Earle Haley, which I think people like to hate this movie a lot for him and what they did to Freddy. And let me see if I can make this kind of quick, but I'll imagine you're making a Platinum Dunes remake, and you know you're trying to make a little more serious tone. Again, I'm under the impression that, like, if you're going to remake a film, you should do something different for the most part, not just do exactly the same thing. So I'm all for trying to do something different, create a different world, create a different vibe, while staying somewhat true to the original. That's the key, right? But you get the Friday the 13th remake, you get the Texas Chainsaw remake, those types of films, even House of Wax, House on Haunted Hill. You know, I missed the time when we were getting some of those. They may not all be the best film, films, but they were trying to make like a dark, atmospheric, modern version of these horror classics, and I miss that. I miss those. They all had a lot of gore, a lot more practical effects work, and I miss those types of movies. So, but you take a villain like Freddy, and he's in this world where he's like sarcastic and self-aware, and he toys with his victims, and you try to plop him in a serious version of A Nightmare on Elm Street, he's gonna look more like the Jackie Earle Haley version, because you can see that they clearly tried to bring some of his attributes with the one-liners, the way he toys with his victims. Now, I'm not saying that they nailed it, but I'm saying, like, if you think about Freddy from the older movies and plop him in the tone of these newer remakes, like, that's kind of what it should look like. Again, not saying they nailed it, but if you kind of understand what they're going for, like, the old Freddy doesn't really fit in this movie exactly. It's just doesn't fit in the world they're creating. And if you're trying to do something different and you're trying to remake a film, you should do something different. And so I see what they were going for. I see this is what Freddy should look like in this world that they were creating. Now, that being said, Jackie Earle Haley's performance I don't think is bad. He's does what he can with what he's working with, which is not a lot, you know. And I think some of the moments work really well. I think some of his delivery works really well in some parts, but he definitely does, like, they failed to make him a fully fleshed out character. And I think that, you know, again, not trying to lay this on Jackie Earle Haley, but someone else, there's a possibility, could have come into the same movie with the same lines and just commanded the screen more. You know, again, if you're putting him up against Robert Englund, like, he's always going to pale in comparison, especially that version of Freddy. But I think there's a world where somebody could have come in and commanded the screen more and done possibly a better job, because I don't want to blame it entirely on Jackie Earle Haley, but I think there's a world where someone could have done a better job, possibly, with the material that's in there. That being said, I don't think it was entirely his fault, and I also don't think it's entirely bad. It just doesn't fully work, and I understand that. Now, that being said, the practical effects work and the CGI work with Freddy, a lot of people complain about that. Now, if you were to go back in time and recreate Freddy, the character, a burn victim who's a horror icon now, but, like, imagine you didn't know what he looked like, I feel like he would look closer to the burn victim look that's in the remake. Granted, again, I know he's already iconic, we've got this developed look, but I never thought the original look of Freddy actually looked like a burn victim. It always just kind of looked like a makeup on a character to me. And while it worked for those films, and it's already been established at this point, and it's hard to revamp that. If you were to think, hey, what would this character really look like? I feel like he'd be closer to the crazy, like, Cater, like, not Cater, Cater? Oh my gosh, what's the word I'm looking for? I can't think. In the face, like holes in the face. Like a, what is the word? Like a meteor crater. Holy cow. With the Slate, it's well after midnight right now. Craters in his face actually is more what it would look like. I like that you can see, like, the strings of his muscles and stuff. Again, the CGI work isn't always top notch there, and some of it fails and it shifts and changes, and it's not necessarily the best, but the idea I actually really, really like. And I think that if you were to think, like, go back to the drawing board, that's closer to how the burn victim should look. That being said, it's less iconic looking and it's less unique and original. I get that, and I agree with that. But I think that it got just a bad rap, you know. And again, go back and look at it. The effects are not as bad as people remember them looking. In fact, they're better, again, than some modern stuff that we've gotten. I'll take a Jackie Earle Haley somewhat CGI'd face to a complete Pennywise any day. I don't know. Like, it's just complete CGI characters. It's so much worse. Okay, so anyway, point being, Jackie Earle Haley didn't nail the performance. I get why people have issues with Freddy, but it's a different Freddy. You know, the old Freddy doesn't fit in this world, and I think if you kind of keep that in mind and you watch the film for the atmosphere that it creates, the music, the score, the kills, some of the cool color palette, some of the great scene transitions, and cool stuff that's going on screen. Really, it creates, again, a great tone, a great atmosphere that I personally really enjoy. I never really get tired of watching this movie. Now, again, the pace is a little slower, so sometimes I will fall asleep, or I'll be like, oh, I don't know if I want to watch that. But it creates a world that is hard to replicate in other films. Like, I actually want to be in that world when I'm in the mood for it, you know. And like, I can't say that that's true about a lot of modern films these days. And so I just think that it got a lot more hate than it deserved. It was really a product of its time, and people were mad about it. And if it came out right now, I actually think that it would get less hate. I don't think it would still be super well received by fans, but I think it would be received very differently. And so, I don't know, my hot take, I like the Nightmare on Elm Street remake. Now, I said there's faults for sure. I'm not saying it's a perfect film, but at the time, I think I thought it was worse. And then looking back 15 years ago, like I said, I'm like, you know what? We didn't know what we had. It was a lot better than we thought it was, I think. And look, now we have no Freddy. We have no Nightmare on Elm Street movies. And that director, the poor director, Marcus Nispel, no, he did the Friday the 13th one. Samuel Bauer, just basically has done music videos ever since. And I just think, hey, if you remember this movie being really bad and you said, I'll never watch it again, maybe just watch it again with new eyes and think about the world they were trying to create, feel the atmosphere, the tone, and really think about how it is compared to newer films. And we haven't got like a classic horror revamp that's worked as solidly as some of those Platinum Dunes remakes in a long time. And I think the hate that Nightmare on Elm Street got, well, I know, is a big contributing factor to why we didn't get more of those movies. So, you know, just think about that. Like, we were pretty harsh on it, and I don't think it deserved it. So, anyway, hey, thanks for sitting through this and listening to me talk about Nightmare on Elm Street. I think I have more things I wanted to say, but like I said, I was just kind of wanted to sit by the fire and chat about the movie because I watched it the night and I really enjoyed it. And honestly, I kind of want to watch it again. I cannot believe I completely forgot to talk about one of the most controversial aspects of the Nightmare on Elm Street remake. It's actually the next night, and I was like, well, I got to come back out here and talk about this because this is one of the things that people have the most issues with in the remake, and it's the decision to make Freddy a full-on kid toucher. Yes, and now I know a lot of people have issues with that. I'm going to play devil's advocate here a bit, and while I totally understand why people don't like to see Freddy, an iconic villain who they love and have grown to appreciate over years of many movies, now go into a remake and be just a full-on like kid toucher, and I completely understand that. However, it is heavily implied in the original, and as many people probably know, was actually the original intent from Wes Craven to make him that type of character, and then decided against it. So while again, I understand it's like, hey, Wes Craven made the right decision, probably not doing that. So fans are like, well, yeah, that was the right decision. Let's not go back and do it. Again, I have to like thinking about in terms of like this like dark remake tone, this world they're trying to create. It makes sense that, you know, why did the parents want to kill Freddy just because like he got away with murders? I mean, it's like kid murder gets away with stuff is kind of like does not as much motivation for parents in terms of him seeking revenge against them because they had to go outside the law, you know, like they really had to go outside the law to do something. And so it makes more sense actually that there would be some scenario where it's like, hey, he was doing stuff that they couldn't prove and they wanted to protect their kids, and so they took matters in their own hands. It actually makes a little bit more sense for the motivation of the parents. Now, again, it's like it's hard for you to root for your villain when we know these movies most of the time we're going to see the villain, we're going to see Freddy. So was it a smart decision? Probably not, but I'm just, again, playing devil's advocate here. Like, I totally understand the decision, especially because it was originally intended to go that direction. And so they're really just pulling more from the original source idea and going that direction. Same thing with like burn marks. Again, it's like more like the intended direction. So it's not like they strayed away and pulled something crazy out of the air. When you think about it, you watch it from that perspective. I understand. Again, it's like I understand why maybe you don't like it, but it's not like they were just making up random junk and you're like, what did you do to this iconic villain? They were pulling kind of more from source material in a way. Hey, I really hope that you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching me just ramble about a movie by the fireplace. But before you go, check out the link in the description. I have a Etsy shop link down there with some horror merch that I've been working on. Now, for me, for years, I've been wanting to do some merch, and I know that people don't want to like wear a shirt with my channel name, which is just my name on it. No one's gonna wear that, and that's dumb, and I get that. And no one wants to wear some logo or something like that, but I wanted to try to make something cool that I could sell that I would actually want to wear. And I'm just not really a big fan of horror merch. A lot of the times it's a little cheesy, over the top. It's just a poster slapped on the front. It's not super unique or original. So for me, sometimes it's not my favorite thing. So I decided to try to make some stuff that I would actually wear. It's a little more like minimal, low key. All the designs for the most part are on the back of the shirt. So check out this video, check out some of these shirts, some of these designs on there. I've been working hard on a lot of these designs, and the actual shirts themselves are really high quality, which is really important to me. They're thick, they're 100% cotton. Again, very important to me. I like the colors, the very like sort of vintagey, sort of faded look of these colors. And again, shirts are like really good quality. They're oversized, which is what I actually wear. And so, hey, if these look cool to you, click that link in the description. Just check them out. I've got a seriously crazy sale going on right now. Like, when I'm not joking when I'm saying I'm legitimately losing money on all of them. I'm not even making any money. I'm paying for whoever buys these shirts at the moment, just so I could get a few customers and get some reviews. So if you like some of that stuff, check it out. And if you like the shirt, drop a review after you buy it. Let me know in the comments if you bought something, and I really appreciate it. Thank you for watching this video, and have a happy October.
Got them running scared, I'm a big bad wolf. Oh, I never see the silver lining, only see the gold. I don't speak in caps, dog, everything bold. And I put that on myself, cause it's a life that I done chose. I said come through, you can see me on the west side. Now it's funny how they walking with each chest.